It's a busy week. It's a stressful week. It's a good week. While I'm filming this, it's the first week of teaching, and I've got some books to wrap up, so you guys can watch this on Friday. So let's do it. I've been talking a lot this week, but it's fine. It's fine. So we're gonna go through it. I don't think I actually read that much compared to other months, but I really liked what I was reading. It felt like a great reading month, so we're gonna take it. It's a win. We're not gonna numerically decide if it's a win or not. I mean, I will give you guys ratings based off my internal rating scale. I have not rated them on Storygraph because I am bad at keeping up to date on anything right now, but right here live, I will decide what to rate a book that I read this month. Very chill. Just gonna go in order-ish. Starting with Arcanum Unbounded, which is hard to rate because it's many different things, and I didn't read it completely all the way through. I read a fair few things. I talk about some of the internal works more specifically in my recent Cosmere ranking. It is a spoiler-free video, if you were curious. But essentially, the highlights for me were Emperor's Soul, which I basically considered as my own book on the list. So Emperor's Soul is one of my favorite things Sanderson has ever put together. So let's talk about that one first, because I want to highlight it in case somehow you haven't picked it up yet and you've been like, I want to one day. Well, here, let me push you to make that one day tomorrow. Let's try it. So, Emperor's Soul is about this woman who is a forger, and a forger is someone who makes stamps and can make an object have a different interpretation of what it is. It's really cool, and it's kind of how you can sort of learn about the cognitive plane in the Cosmere, but you don't need to know that for the story, I think, to still hit, because this time I was ignoring all the Cosmere stuff and just enjoying the themes of what it means to be an artist. There are these different political ideals that we're looking at in this part of the world. She is put to an impossible task. They were going to kill her, but then they're like, but actually we'll pay you, let you go if you do this impossible task, which she also knows they're never going to let her live if she does this task, so she's also doing the impossible task and trying to escape. It's really well balanced, I feel. I really love the magic. I think it's so cool how it works. I like the project she's trying to do, and I love the discussion on art and what makes someone an artist and what makes, art original enough, or, what's the purpose of doing certain things with art. I really like Emperor's Soul. And I don't like novellas very often. This one really works for me. Other standouts for me in that collection were The Sixth of Dusk, I think, or is it Sixth of Dusk? I can never remember if there's a D or not, but it's the Bird Planet short story. And we'll talk about Silence at the same time, because both of those are about the same for me. They're both just really great, like 40 to 50 page length short stories with horror elements that I think are really atmospheric and fun. I think Sanderson should play with horror elements more. I think he's okay at it. I think he's more than okay. I'm not saying he's the best person to play with these things, but I really like it. I thought the settings were nefarious enough, considering they were the nefarious elements that we were exploring. I liked the characters and the situations they were in and what they represented and who they were as people. I thought these were really tight and well done, and I think it's short story work that I like from him. There were other things I read in that collection that were fine. They were just little, deleted scenes, extra episodes, stuff that he put in RPG game books. I'm not going to get into that here. We do have an Arcanum Unbounded live show on my channel, so if you want more thoughts, spoiler-free and spoiler-filled, you can go see Jesse, Roger, Stephanie, and I discuss. It was very fun. Next thing we'll talk about is Jackalope Wives, which I think is the first thing I actually finished this year, but I wrote Arcanum Unbounded first because this is chaos. It's not even in the order in which I read them. It's not in groups. It's not by rating. We're just going to talk about the books I read this month. But Jackalope Wives and Other Stories is a T. Kingfisher short story collection. I don't know if it's the first short story collection. I think it's pretty early on in her bibliography, and it's a delight. I think it's a good taste testing for if you're just want to see a sampling of all the things T. Kingfisher likes to play with. Whether it's that horror stuff, if it's some sort of character archetype she usually has, some fairy tale retellings, a focus on gardening, sort of whimsical folk tales. There's a lot of Americanized fantasy too, which I don't know, I feel like I appreciate a little bit because a lot of times, a lot of our influences for epic fantasy tend to be very Eurocentric, which is fine. There's a lot of great things that have come from European culture that we incorporate into fantasy, but it is really cool, the fantasy worlds that she chooses to put in the American Southwest. I find that very interesting. So I had a delightful time with this collection. It feels like reading stories that a friend wrote to me to cheer me up. I really like T. Kingfisher. So this was a delight. It was something on my TBR. I picked it up. I finished it. So many goals accomplished. It was a great time. The thing I read for Patreon, and not this weekend, but next weekend, we will have our book club discussion on it, is The Deep Sky. This one surprised me, okay? So I started this one very nervous, like very nervous, because right away, chapter 1, I'm having world building issues. And I'm not someone who really pokes holes in world building stuff. Like, not to the point where it breaks me out of reading the story. Maybe after the fact, I'll think about it. It's like, oh yeah, kind of didn't make sense. Like, I like Fourth Wing, right? So obviously I'm not here for that. But there were some things that right off the back, I was just like, how does this work? Okay. But then somewhere along the way, it just committed to being a mystery, suspense in space, and it worked for me. And that's not a genre that usually works for me, as a mystery. But that's what this was. It was like a closed circle mystery in space. We have some people who die, and we know it's probably someone on the ship, and it kept me guessing the whole time, like, who, why, what's happening? And the reveal is probably going to vary how it lands for a lot of people, but I had fun enjoying the chaotic speed of the end of that book. It's also one of those things where I know a lot of people who like finish the second half in like a day. It has a really good ramp up of pacing. So I think for its project, for what it's doing, it's a pretty good version of it. Does it have good world building? No. Yeah, not even going to pretend that anything that they are doing makes sense to me. It's not like the worst, but if you're someone who like, I want my science fiction to be a grounded version of a potential future, yeah, no, not this. There are a lot of things that are done for the sake of coolness, and sometimes it is cool. It's like, oh, that'd be very interesting. But also the logic of like, but would that make sense? Yeah, sort of thing. The next one we'll talk about, there is going to be a live show, as you're seeing this on Friday, tomorrow. It's going to be tomorrow on Jess Owen's channel. This is going to be Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Davis. These are essays that I read, or I listened to, and she narrates it, so beautiful voice. And it's just discussions about, I think the main thing I took away, because these essays and talks are from different events and situations she's been in, there is a lot of overlap in her thesis. And obviously the thesis of this nonfiction kind of conglomerate of these essays is, freedom is not easy, freedom has to be fought, freedom has to be maintained. But also specifically, something I took away is that social movements are not won by an individual. Even the individuals we know for social movements, they are not the backbone of them. And it's not till you have like societal or community presence around a movement that it can gain the traction to get where it needs to go. It was really fascinating. I actually liked the repetition. I know some people always put that on their kind of like cons list for this essay collection, but I really liked it because it kind of brought back, like, it made it very clear to me what her thinking talking points are, what her internal thesis is. And I kind of liked seeing that. And I did also just kind of listen to an essay or two a day. So it was kind of spread out over a week or so. So it wasn't too, egregious for me. So that's that. And now we have The Vor Game, which I don't know if I was planning to read this month, but I did. I remember I was in bed and I was just like, what am I going to read on my Kindle? Because whatever I was reading at the time was a physical book. And so I couldn't read that in bed because I don't do that because I'm old. I'm not actually old, but like I read in bed with a Kindle. That's what I do. I'm not holding anything. I think my eyes just don't want to deal with that type of lighting situation, like the backlight of my Kindle. And I'm just like, so what should I read? And I'm like, let's try The Vor Game, because I owned a copy. I like bought it for myself because I can't get it on the library apps. And I was instantly like, yeah, I'm back. Let's go, Miles. Miles. I've tried to talk about the Vorkosigan Saga a lot on the channel, and I don't really know if I'm ever adequately describing it, but it's really is fun the right word? It's engaging. I feel kind of cozy, but a lot of dark stuff happens. It's very adjacent to a T. Kingfisher experience, but not as whimsical. And what I'm 4 books in or so, but I am in the second full-length Miles story. There is a novella I haven't read yet. I do plan to read it. I'm reading it in its bind up. There are a lot of ways in which to read the Vorkosigan Saga. And I'm probably doing it mostly correct, but slightly wrong. But it's okay, because I'm going to have a good time. It's going to be wonderful. And I'm following the second full length with Miles Vorkosigan, who is the son of Arl and Cordelia. And he is so cool. He's one of my favorite things. He's a creature of 2 cultures. I love that, right? Like, I love someone who gets to carry 2 different cultures, especially the distinct cultures that he has. He's someone who wants to achieve a certain thing. He has goals, but in the society he's in, he has some issues with how he was born. So he has some they're not even, I don't know if they're termed disabilities, but it affects how he can interact with the space and how people perceive him. And in the line of work he wants to go into, it's a struggle. But also his dad's kind of like a really big deal. So he does get some political sway. But at the end of the day, even ignoring all this, Miles is just such a conniving little thing, and he just like always finds his way into such weird problems, and then I just have to figure out how he's gonna get out of them. And sometimes they get worse when it's his fault, and sometimes they get worse when it's not. And by the end of the book, I'm like, how would I have even known we were getting here? And the answer is I never will. I don't know how Bejeweled plots her works, if it's just kind of like outlined or if she just does it as it makes sense, but it works for me in a way that it doesn't normally work for me with other books, and I really like the character work and the dialogue. I think the dialogue really lands for me in a way that's cozy. That's probably the best way I can put it. And yeah, and I like that they're not too long. They don't overstay their welcome for me. Okay, then the last two are two that I have read that I haven't talked about, I think, in anything on the channel. The first one is Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones. I love this book. It's shocking, I know. Yeah, it's just... This was also really great to read. It's what to even say? If you've read My Heart is a Chainsaw, this takes place like 5 years after it. And if you know the slasher genre, you know that there is always a huge body count, okay? So we had a huge body count in My Heart is a Chainsaw. Our main character does make it. You know, like, otherwise having a trilogy following this main character is going to be a little weird. And 5-ish years after the first book is where this book takes off. And we don't know what happened to Jade at the end of the book. We just know she didn't die. That's all we know. And so a good part of the beginning of this book, I'm just like, what is happening? And also it has this tension. Stephen Graham Jones is so good at evoking the tension from a very good thriller, horror, suspense situation. Like the opening scene, once again, classic slasher opening scene, just like the first book. And then we have this ominous threat. And if you read the first book, you'll also realize, but do I even think, is that actually the threat? Or is it that obvious? And you spend so much of this book kind of in this mystery space of like, what is causing all of this and what is happening? And it's great for winter. Oh my gosh. It's during like the course of 24 to 48 hours in a snowstorm. Amazing. Yeah, and it, once again, like My Heart is a Chainsaw, it has these like interlude sort of sections that are like this, I think these emails from someone who you can figure out part of the way through who that someone is. For some reason, it wasn't obvious to me at the time, but I think if you read this back to back from My Heart is a Chainsaw, it might be more obvious. Oh, it's so good. And I was nervous that it wasn't going to be just Jade's perspective, but it actually really works, all the point of views that we get in this book, I think. I think it's really good. You get to really see all these unique perspectives and voices. Some are choices. It's like, I don't know if I needed that perspective. And I had the absolute joy of reading the climax of this book while on the elliptical. And it happened to be that climax lasted the exact amount of time as the time I was spending on the elliptical. And like, it was perfect. It was just, you can't even like plan those sort of situations. So that was also really fun. So yeah, loved it. Can't wait to read the third book. Really awesome. Once again, horror can't miss. Like, my favorite stuff is horror. I should just become a horror channel or something. I don't know why I don't lean into it more. Maybe I'm worried that if I oversaturate it, it won't be special anymore. And the last one I read, it was purely off the recommendations of the people in my Discord because, I had the arc and I liked the first book. So the first book's A Strange and Stubborn Endurance, and I read all the Hidden Paths. Just get that out of the way. But I read it because the people in my Discord who love it, really love it, and they've been shouting about it, and then they talked about who the narrators were, and I'm like, well, I love those narrators. And so I started listening to this while shoveling, and I've learned I like shoveling. I know no one cares about that, but I like shoveling. It is so cathartic to me. I enjoy it. So I started listening to it while shoveling my driveway after a really nice snowstorm, and I listened to it while I was baking some pasta, and it was just nice to listen to. I think my biggest thing is I still don't like listening to romance books, if that makes sense. Like, I liked listening to it except in the romance parts, especially there are some steamy scenes, and so I just find listening to those type of things not as fun or enjoyable for me as using my eyeballs. If anything, they feel a little awkward to me because I'm just like, this is a little weird because you're a voice actor using your voice to do these scenes, and like, I don't know, it's weird. So I think that like is something that would have been better for me if I physically read it, but I didn't have the physical reading time, and I enjoyed all the other parts in audio because I do love these audio narrators. They're so good. And I really do love exploring what happens after Happily Ever After, per se. Because the first book ends in a happy for now sort of spot. And this one picks up. And there's still, like, a whole bunch of stuff to work through. Because, like, in the first book, our main character is, like, recovering from being disowned by his family and his country after being, like, sexually assaulted by his former partner. And, you know, yeah, he kind of comes out the other end hopeful for his future. He, like, has an attraction to this man he's married. They're in an okay spot. But this book really tackles, okay, so how do you learn how to be a partner with someone who has their baggage and you have your baggage, and also political games are afoot? That's the story, and I think it's fun. I know some people, I guess, didn't like that it implies that things weren't happily ever after the last book, but I mean, after what Val went through, there's no way that it should have been. So I really like how this kind of makes that whole, I don't know if it's a duology, it feels like a duology. The world is really nice. I do think I'm done with this couple. I would want to follow other people, but I liked it. Maybe a tad long. I think both books were a tad long, but they're enjoyable. I like them. The audio narrator is good. And those are the things I read. I also read other pages that I talked about briefly in the TBR earlier this week, where I read like 200 pages of Reaper's Gale and I read like 200 pages of The Way of Kings, but like I haven't finished them. So I'll wrap those up at a later date. But that's this month. I think it's largely been good. We'll see what February has in store. I already feel like I have more audiobook time, but maybe less physical reading time and energy. Because boy, howdy, class prep. It's a never-ending cycle of class prep. And I like doing it, but it's just like, this semester is definitely just getting my feet under me. And I think I'll be okay, but it's definitely a learning curve, to say the least. As you already saw this week with my upload schedule getting a little tweaked. We'll see what happens as time goes on, for sure. But leave me your favorite read of January, or at least most impactful. It doesn't even have to be your favorite, but the one that you're like, man, it was only 4 stars, but I can't start thinking about X. Would love to hear. If you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here. I do not know. We've left a lot of emojis already this month. Let's leave snow, because I like to shovel. Snow is for Don't Fear the Reaper, and I think there's kind of sort of snow on the cover of this. Maybe not. Maybe that's just a mountain. But that's it for this one. Like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!